Okay, girls. So lastly, we're going to do size of data sets. So remember our statistical process? So we're going to work on this one, the first one, collect data. And we're going to talk about census sample, random sample, stratified sample, and systematic sample. Okay, size of data sets. So the size of the data collected can be a population or a sample. Okay, so there are two options. It's either a population or a sample. In statistics, population refers to every element or identity that relates to the investigation. So we're going to see some examples in a later. It depends on what the outcome relates to. Or we can also say it relates to the question that's being asked. So it's also about the question that's being asked, okay? Depending on the question, that is going to depend if what is the population and also what the sample is. So an example, if I want to find, this is my question, find the average age of the year 9 students at Avila College. So here, when I say the year 9 students at Avila College, that means that my population is all the year 9 students at Avila College. Does that make sense? Because that's my question. So that's why it says it depends on what your question is. So if your question is find the average of the age of year 9 students at Avila, that means the population will be all of the year 9s at Avila. Okay? Let's do another example. Find the average age of year 9 students in Australia. Okay, that's different. Now we're not talking about Avila, we're going talking about all the students in year 9 in Australia. That means that my population will be all, again, all the year 9 students of Australia. Okay, wonderful. So size of data. A sample is a representative portion of the population. So we can think about is that if I have all this and all of this is my population, a sample will be a subgroup. Can I change the color here? I don't know if I can. That's okay. I'll put it here. So this will be a sample. So let's look at the examples here and we say, it also depends on the question that you're being asked. So example, find the average age of the year 9 students at Avila College. So we already said that the population will be all the students of year 9 students in Avila College. That's the population. But a sample could be 20 students. So it's a subgroup. It's a small group out of all the population that I have, okay? In the other example that we had before, find the average of year 9 students in Australia, then the population will be all the year 9 students of Australia. But a sample can be all the year 9 students from Avila College. So what in the example 1 I had that was my population, in my example 2 becomes a sample because my question is different, okay? So types of data collection. Census. So census is data collected from the entire population. So when we're talking about the previous one here, about the entire population, that's the census, okay? The most common one is the one conducted by the Australian Bureau of Statistics every 5 years. The entire nation takes part in the census. The survey is data collected from a portion of the population or a sample. Remember that the sample is a small group or subgroup of that population. This type of data collection is most commonly used in market research. It is important that surveys are correctly conducted, as the conclusions drawn from the data should be represent those of the population from which they are drawn. So basically what they're saying, as we know, this whole thing is the population, and then I have a small group that is the sample. So when we're doing surveys, basically we're doing a survey only on this small group here that we have, a sample that we have done. But this sample has to be collected in a way that is representative of the whole population that I have. Because whatever conclusions I'm coming up to with this example, with this sample that I took out, that this survey that I'm conducting on this limited amount of people have to be true also for the population. So that's why important that this sample has to be selected in the correct way. And we're going to look about what we mean by that in a minute. So how we select that sample. The sample for the data set can be collected by either a random or a stratified technique. We're going to talk about both. So random selection ensures all elements of the population have an equal chance of being selected. So let's talk about that example that we had before about talking about those. If I'm going to select 20 students of the year 9 to see the average in age in the year 9s, so I can take a hat, agree, and I can put all the names of all the students there, just and select randomly 20 students. So that means that I'm selecting randomly a selection, and all the elements of the population have the equal chance of being selected. So this is a random selection, okay? And a stratified selection ensures that groups within the population have a similar representation in the sample. So if I'm talking about this, I will say, like, what happens if I know, for example, that 20% of the students are 14-year-old? And I also know that another 20% are 16 years old. So 60% is 15 years old. Okay, so that means if I'm going to select 20 students, okay, I have to make sure that out of those 20 students that I'm going to select, 20% are 14 years old, 60% are 15 years old, and 20% and 16 years old. So what I can do here is I say, okay, I'm going to do 20 times 20%. That will mean that this is 20 times 4 students are here, another 4 here, that's 8, and this will be 12 students here. So if I select, I make sure that I have 4 students that are 14 years old, then I'm stratified. I'm making sure that I'm keeping the balance. So again, why? So when I make the conclusions about these ones, the conclusion in the population is going to be based on the same balance that I have here. Because what happens if I don't do this, girls, and I just select a random selection like this? What happens? And I get in the sample that I get, I'm not getting this distribution that I have here, but let's say that I had 0 people from 14-year-old, and then I had 16 people from the 15 years old, and then 4 people of 16 years old. So if I have this sample, my conclusions are going to be made of an older population. So I'm completely forgetting that they're 14 years old in year 9s. You see? So that's why it's important that I keep the proportion. So for this example, it's not that good to have a random. For this example, I have to have a stratified selection. But you're going to see more examples about this later on. So if you go into Maths Online, go into this lesson, and there are going to be more examples about what I'm talking about here, okay? Wonderful, girls. And with this, we finish the topic for today. Thank you for watching.